Hi everybody, this is Joyce of Ms. Joyce Tarot, and today I'm going to be talking about the Major Arcana or the Trump cards in the Tarot deck. But first I want to remind you to please share and like this video, and if you would like a personal reading with me, please visit the links below to either my website or my Patreon page. So as you may know, there are 78 cards in the Tarot deck. There are 14 cards in each of the four suits, and those collectively, all the suits, the four suits, are called the Minor Arcana. And then there are 22 cards in the Major Arcana, also called the Trump cards. And these cards are separate. They don't belong to any particular suit, and as the name suggests, they have a little bit more weight than the cards in the Minor Arcana. In some card games that we play with a regular card deck, we may declare a particular suit as the trump cards, like in the game of spades or hearts or pinochle or something like that. But in the tarot deck, there are a set of cards that are particularly designated as the trump. And in the tarot reading, the Minor Arcana, which are the four suits, when these cards come up, they usually pertain to our everyday living, such as our jobs, our work, our love life, our relationships, and our passions, things that we do, our career, our thoughts, our thought processes, what we think, the decisions we make on an everyday basis. But the trump cards, when they come up, they usually point to a major turning point in your life, or something that really needs to be paid attention to more closely than maybe that is shown through a Minor Arcana card. The first of the trump cards is called the Fool card, and that card is given the number 0. And according to tradition, the progression of the cards follow a story. It's called the Fool's Journey. So the first card is the Fool, which denotes someone who is starting on this journey with an open mind and no expectations, coming to the number 1 position, which is the Magician, who goes out into the world with the knowledge of the 4 elements at his disposal in order to create his world. And he continues on his journey, learning things and coming across obstacles until you get to the last card, which is the number 21 card, called the World card. And that is a card of completion, where you have learned all your lessons and you have gained a certain amount of success. That is the traditional thought of how the Major Arcana is structured. In the Rider-Waite deck, which I'll be using today, there is a lot of symbolism in the illustrations on the cards that have relationships to Christianity, Kabbalah, and other sources. I will not be pointing out each and every detail of these symbols in my explanation today. Also, I will not be relating each card in terms of its position in the journey of the Fool. I will not be connecting one card to the other to say, okay, now the Fool is going through this phase, the Fool is going through that phase. I will be explaining each card individually and giving the interpretation of each card specifically as a standalone. And my explanation and general interpretation of these cards can be applied to any deck that uses the Rider-Waite system. So let's get started looking at the Major Arcana. The Fool card has the number 0, perhaps to symbolize that this character is a blank slate. With his backpack, he is on a journey, carefree and open to new experiences. He is also on his way to walking off the cliff. The Fool card can represent a new cycle in your life. For example, you may be making an important change in your career, or moving to a new state, or even another country, or otherwise just taking a big risk. The main message of this card is to take a chance and to do what you were called to do, and to not be afraid to be called foolish. This is a major turning point where you have to go out on a limb in order to have any chance of rising to the next level. Card number 1, the Magician, shows a person who has symbols of the 4 suits on the table in front of him: a sword, a pentacle or coin, a wand, and a cup. The person uses them to create magic in his life. This card shows a time in your life where you must begin to use your knowledge of the universe in order to manifest what you want in life. This means mastering emotions, thoughts, passion, and practicality, and knowing when and how to use any and all of these elements. Card number 2, the High Priestess, is thought to be the counterpart of the Magician. While the Magician is a master of outward action, the High Priestess is the master of the inner world. This card represents a time when you need to go within yourself and tap into the subconscious and rely on intuition. The Empress, which is number 3, is about tapping into feminine energy, realizing that this energy is available equally to men as well as women. This is a time to rely heavily on creativity. It is a time of manifesting abundance in the many forms that abundance can show itself. It is a time to pay attention to intuition and emotions, as well as to be nurturing and encouraging of others. People may be drawn to you during this time in your life. The number 4 card in the Major Arcana is the Emperor, which is seen to be the counterpart of the Empress. When this card shows up, it may be a time to tap into your masculine energy, whether you are a man or a woman. You may need to take a logical approach to make hard choices and to be an authoritarian. Ideally, this is still done with compassion and considering the best interests of all involved. The Hierophant is number 5. This card shows a pope-like figure teaching spiritual lessons to others. This card shows up during a time in your life when spiritual belief systems are in question. You may be strengthening your current spiritual practices, taking a look at your spiritual teachers, or thinking about changing your approach to spirituality from being traditional to going your own way. The Lover's card is number 6. This card is about partnerships of all kinds, but it often relates to committed romantic relationships. The way readers interpret this card can vary, but when this card shows up, I see it as a time when a relationship reaches a point where authenticity is key. The parties involved have to be naked to each other and vulnerable, and they also have to be on the same page when it comes to their relationship to the universe or the divine, or they must have a similar worldview. The number 7 card in the Major Arcana is the Chariot. This card shows a person guiding a chariot being pulled by mythical creatures, one black and one white. And these creatures seem to be going in slightly different directions. The one guiding the chariot is still in control. This card represents a time in your life where there is a lot going on, but you are able to pull it together and make great strides. Momentum is on your side. The Strength card, number 8, shows a person taming a wild beast using their inner spiritual strength and compassion. While this card could mean a time in your life when you have to use compassion and strength to deal with a difficult situation or a difficult person, It could also mean having to show compassion for yourself to calm the animal instincts within you. The Hermit card is number 9. This card represents a time when you may need to retreat from the world in order to contemplate your life and simply get it together. It could also signal that you need to make your own decisions as opposed to listening to others. In addition, it could be a time where others see you as a source of wisdom and will look to you as a role model. The Wheel of Fortune, card number 10, shows a time where your luck and your circumstances are going to change. Usually it is for the better, but sometimes this can be a downturn. Either way, this card symbolizes that life is a series of ups and downs. Justice, card number 11, is about getting what you deserve. This usually means that any legal decisions are likely to turn out in your favor. Of course, this card could pertain to any major decision at play in all areas of life. It also suggests a time in your life where fairness in your dealings with others and with yourself should be a main focus. Card 12, the Hanged Man, may seem scary to first-timers, but the key is to know that this character is not being punished and is not being hanged against his will. This person chooses to take this position in order to look at the world differently. When the Hanged Man shows up in a reading, it is a time to take a pause, to be an observer rather than an actor in the play. It is time to turn the world on its head and to get a new perspective on life. Death is card 13. This card is not about physical death, but rather it is about metaphorical death. More accurately, it is about transformation. It could signal the end of a relationship, situation, or idea, but always with the promise of a new beginning. In the Temperance card, which is number 14, the angelic figure in the image is pouring water into the bottom cup, and the water is also flowing from the bottom cup back to the top cup. This card is about maintaining a difficult balance, but remaining calm just as the character is standing in still water. The idea is not to go to extremes by giving too much or taking too much in a particular situation. Card 15, the Devil card, can be disturbing on first sight. The key here is to note that the two smaller figures have loose chains around their necks that can be easily taken off if they wanted to do so. The Devil card represents a time in your life where you feel tied to a situation that you think you can't get out of. This could be an addiction to substances or sex, or you could feel obligated to a relationship, a job, or other situation that you don't want to be in but think you have no choice. This card is not necessarily religious, but represents a time when you are in a self-made hell that you have to decide to get out of on your own. The Tower card, number 16, shows lightning hitting a solid structure and people being thrown out of it. The Tower represents a moment in your life when things fall apart unexpectedly, not because of something you've done, but because of outside circumstances. Examples include suddenly being let go from your job, or catching a lover in the act of cheating, or anything that blindsides you. Your life may seem devastated by the event, but in the long run, you will recognize that this moment was necessary in order to move you in a direction of positive change. Card 17, the Star, is all about hope. It is about washing yourself clean, perhaps after having been through some hardship. It is also about allowing yourself to be naked, vulnerable, and open to experiencing a new beginning. The Moon card is number 18 in the Major Arcana. A dog and a wolf howl at the moon. They represent our tame side and our wild side. creatures are crawling out of the murky waters. This card shows up at a time in our lives when we must face our shadow self and subconscious needs in order to walk the path toward bringing our true selves to the light. Card 19 is the Sun. When this card shows up in a reading, it brings a super sense of optimism no matter what the other cards are that show up in that reading. It signals a time when things are going extremely well, where you have cause to be open and joyful. It is a time to bring out your inner child and let him or her play. Judgment is card number 20. The Judgment card shows up during a time when you are looking at a situation in your life and realizing truths about what has happened and the role you and others have played in the outcome. This may be a time for you to forgive yourself or other people. By the same token, it may be a time when you put things in perspective and realize that assigning blame and pointing fingers may not be the way to go. Coming in at number 21 in the Major Arcana is the World card. All around the figure in the middle are symbols of the four elements: earth, air, fire, and water. The four suits in the Minor Arcana represent those same four elements. This card shows up at a time when you have completed a major life cycle and you have successfully learned the lessons that you were being taught. Just as sure as you have completed the cycle, it is just as certain that you will begin again in a new adventure in life in order to elevate and learn more. So I hope you enjoyed my explanation of the Major Arcana or Trump cards in the Tarot deck. Thank you for listening. Please hit the like button, please share, and I will talk to you soon.